Hello, this is Chris Jantzen. Welcome to the End Evil podcast.
In this world of love and brutality, I walk the road of justice and morality.
Teaching and learning about how it could work.
Put it together.
Nah, shout out to everybody in the lobby.
Rise up, rise up, rise up.
Like the bright coursing rays of light bathing the shell. Netter, nature.
Rise up, rise up.
The Warriors.
Welcome, friends. This is Chris. We're back with another One Great Work Warriors. Powerful discussion to share with everybody. Our main focus is the study of natural law, teaching and learning about how the consequences of human behavior affect the world and our state of being in this world. We're working towards a better future, right? I mean, shouldn't we all be working towards a better future? And what would that involve? What would that take? From our point of view, that would take a lot more conscious effort in terms of understanding morality, what's right and what's wrong. And if we're able to all understand that and define it clearly and share the same, at least basic, common, simple understanding that it's wrong to steal from one another, all the various forms of stealing, then we could have a world where it wasn't everybody stealing from each other, because everybody would understand that all that's going to do is create slavery for everyone, which is a terrible state to be in. And no one likes slavery, right? I don't. I hope you don't. You shouldn't. You know, it goes against being a human. It goes against everything that means being a human and growing and being good. So that's why we formed this band of gentlemen here who care about the future. We care about humanity, and we care about truth. We care about principles. So those are the topics of our discussion. And this week, I want to hand it off to my man Derek, who came with a really cool topic. Who's like, we're always seeing all this doom and gloom and everybody complaining about what's not working. How would it look? What could work? How would we imagine a better future? So, Derek, take it away.
Imagine, folks. Beyond what John Lennon was saying and all that, is there only going to be one anthem song to some kind of movement? That's crusty as fuck at this point, and we could come up with a lot better lyrics. We have more technology. We have more innovative capacity, I feel, at this point. And I came across this subject because it was actually, I think we talked about it. It was coming up, with the elections and stuff, and everyone's just like so frantic about not, like the general population in America is so concerned about, this is like DEFCON 5 if we don't get the right person in the office and they can, shift around some of the chairs on the Titanic and shit. Oh, I'm gonna not have sex with these people now, or I'm gonna abandon my family because of orange people supporters or whatever the fuck. It's like a lot of people lack greatness within themselves. They can't even imagine a great place to be in. They have to depend on outside authority and stuff. And you hear all these things about like, well, that could happen only in a perfect world and this and that. It's like, where's your imagination? Why can't we take steps towards something, that's nothing's going to be fucking perfect, but it's going to be a lot fucking better than what the hell kind of state of society we're in right now. And I brought up this subject as well because, I've been teasing around with this and I've been recording some stuff that I haven't put out yet in regards to creating a hermetically sealed society, keeping those natural law principles intact and, eternal axioms of truth that everyone has these common grounds to stand on. And we're all equal on that fucking level, doesn't mean that everyone's worth the same because, you take a carpenter like Chris, he doesn't have the same value as someone as, like who's like a school teacher or whatever, there's just, there's people get, equality and like competence kind of convoluted sometimes, whatever. Anyways, or like value, whatever. So yeah, today I wanted to see what our fellow warriors could bring to the table as if we're in some kind of restaurant and we're ordering a Freedom Lovers pizza, right? Extra shrooms for me, please. Yeah. Anyways, but, so this is, it's not a black pill. It's like the opposite, but enough of the fucking pills. Like, I'm tired of hearing the red pilling, the black pilling, whatever kind of pill. Like, it was a movie, guys, get over it. There's other metaphors and ways to explain things. Like, it's been done ad infinitum at this point. So, I wanted folks to really tap into that wonderful world within themselves where you are the mage on the stage and you don't separate the mage from the image. I mage, right? And so how is your I Magi Nation doing? How is it being populated with, not to sound corny, but, positive thoughts, affirming thoughts, the I am, the encouraging, empowering thoughts, because it all stems from the mind. Anything that's out here in the world, it's all mentalism. We take things to the Hermetica in regards to constructing a proper, sound, and a profitable and abundant place to live in, where everyone is seen as having worth to whatever degree. We can find ways for the elderly to rekindle some of their youth and pass on their knowledge properly, not working at motherfucking McDonald's just to, stave off, dying in an apartment or, getting kicked out for, not paying the rent or some shit like that. Because, you know what I mean? So, yeah, in modern times, the whole modernity lurking over us and the slave new world and, all that shit, right? So, yeah, I'm going to pass it off and just wanted to kind of get the ball rolling and I'm really curious to hear what y'all got going on. So, Jerry or Jim, you want to take it away? I love to, I don't know. I got the JJ always in my mind. So, yeah. So, I'll let y'all fight over it. I'm just kidding. Jerry's already been in a fight, so go for it.
Yeah, I could go, but I'd like to hear from Brandon real quick.
Training, it's not a fight, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Imagining a better world, a interesting topic. So, imagine you wanted to plant some seeds. All right. So, in order to do this, you would need a prospering environment. Of course, soil. Have the ground. The seed needs, rich, nutrients and all that stuff. So you need to have the correct, proper foundation in order for that seed to grow, in order for it to flower. You can plant a seed, but it may not necessarily grow because the conditions aren't being met. So you have to have the correct foundation, a strong foundation, in order for growth to take place. That's the kind of same image that I envision when it comes to imagining a better world. So let's define our terms here. Like what does it mean to hell imagine? Because sadly, we live in a state where most people have a dead consciousness and they can't imagine things outside of the norm. So to imagine something means to create an image within your mind, to cognize, it's movement within the mind. It's the fire within the mind, the ability to create mentally, to create mentations, to create phantasm, to cognize, to think within the mind. So what does it mean to be better? Well, better is a superior state or quality of existence, so to pretty much rise the bar, to say, hey, this may be good, but it can be better, so a better state, a better condition of existence. So when you combine, those two words, with the topic, we're talking about creating within our minds a better state, a quality of existence. And that's where it starts first, because like the same thing with the seed, you have the external, environment, and if those conditions are shitty, that seed is not going to grow. It's not going to, sprout. It's not going to spring up. But also too, if that internal state is shit, it's toxic, and those conditions aren't met, you're never ever going to get to that realm of creation. So the power of mentation, is such a powerful thing. It's infinite, because man is a thinking creature. Like we're constantly creating in our minds. Like everything that we manifest into reality, we create within our minds. We envision. So the first step, if we ever want to build, a true world based in freedom, imagine a better world, is we have to get our thinking correct. We have to imagine things first before we can just materialize things into reality, because nothing just, comes into hell existence. We have to go through the proper conscious, creation. And that imagination is what helps us see things outside of the box, to see things outside the so-called norm, or, like what's considered acceptable. And we have to be on the same page when it comes to this, level of construction, because when we're talking about a better state, or, like a better state of, existence, we're not just talking about, like the physical. We're talking about the whole encompassing, like when it comes to being a conscious being. So we're talking about the physical, the mental, the psychological, the emotional, and the spiritual. All those go hand in hand to make up, man. And what is one of the one main thing that man has always done? He creates, he imagines, so again, we are getting back to the essence, or one of the main essences of being man, being able to think. That's what right there separates us from all other, forms of life that we, have pretty much know about. Is our ability to cognize, our ability to create mentation, and take that from the inner world and then externalize that in order to build and to construct, because that's what we are doing. If we were to imagine a better world, we are constructing. We're not just constructing on the individual level, which it does, but we are also constructing that better world with other people. So we have to have this level of foundation, like this level of principles that has to be met in order for that imagination to go on the next realm, or the next plane, which would be the physical. And that mentation has to be based in the love of truth and true care, because it won't get to a better state of existence if it is not rooted in those two core principles: true love, or true care, and the love of truth. Because you'll always be building on some form of rocky foundation, some form of toxic or, inadequate, foundation. And if you're looking for true longevity, true change, to truly build a better world, then it has to be on that, like on that firm, steadfast foundation. And this is really what culture is supposed to bring. Like when you understand what the word actually means, culture isn't good or bad. It's just simply to cultivate, to plant seeds, hell, the sowing of seeds. Because, hell, again, in the correct environment, those seeds are going to sprout. From a physical standpoint, but if we look at it from a mental standpoint, those seeds are going to sprout, you know. So you can also sow negative seeds, which, like how, which is being done, so those negative seeds are sprouting and they are, being manifested in the form of negative action, hell, immoral behavior. So we have to do the opposite of that, and shift that polarity and and start planting good moral foundational seeds, of course, within, how the youth and the next generation, and mainly with all of the ones we interact with. So culture is supposed to be a tool used to help mankind thrive and to get better. But sadly, it's not being used in the correct way, in the more positive light, because people always just point at cult. It's like yeah, that's in the word, but culture, it's like you're leaving out the like the main meaning of the word, which just means to cultivate. To cultivate isn't good or bad. Hell, we cultivate the land, hell, just like we cultivate, hell, our minds. So what's the fruit of, that cultivation? Like, what is coming out of that cultivation? Is it something that's leading to a better world? Is it something that's leading toward freedom? Is it something that's leading, toward the understanding of natural law? Is it something that's leading toward, more and more people wanting to take, personal responsibility? Is it something that's leading to more and more people, wanting to go inwardly? No, those seeds that we are being, sowed, that are being sown, are not anything of that light. They're seeds of chaos. They're seeds of darkness. They're seeds of fear. And that's why we see it in the manifestation in the physical world, to where we're not even imagining a better world, because people can't even imagine to begin with, because they have that dead and, that dead consciousness. People can't see outside of the norm. People can't see outside of the box. So then how can they ever get to the next steps when it comes to true conscious creation? So I'll pass it on to whoever wants to take it next.
Well, you pretty much said it all. I mean, uh, a lot of what I was thinking, but I mean, when I was thinking about seeds, older seeds have a lesser germination rate. And so when you brought up the youth, that's what I was thinking. I mean, imagining a better world, it has to start with the younger generation, because the older people, yeah, there's some of us who will be able to sprout, but it's the newer seeds that are gonna you get a higher percentage with and building that foundation and let them learn and care for truth and keep building that foundation for the future generations. But unfortunately today, like you kept saying about this programming, um lately I've been watching that uh Michael Tessarian post Human World video, and I recommend that to anyone. As far as like learning about psychology and that, it's just pretty fascinating. But what I really got from that was like everyone in society isn't being themselves. Like everyone is being who society wants them to be. Everyone's being who someone else wants them to be. And that's unfortunately that's been the programming. Like, and by the time you're an adult, it's hard to imagine your way out of that. Um, so many people just like are programmed not to even know their value. And if you don't know your value, then how are you gonna make the world a better place if you're not even being who you want to be and you don't even realize that. So that's why we got to start with those younger seeds, right? Another thing I think about is when it comes to imagining, John Lennon, of course, is one of the first ones who comes to mind. And that song, you know, now it's become like a cliche even, or just it's like people yeah, yeah, right, like how are we gonna do that? But they don't even realize that they're doing the opposite, right? They're imagining war. They're imagining all the destruction, all the negativity by, you know, just not even being who who they want to be. Um, but and then again, also the law of attraction is something that I think of where so many people when they think of the law of attraction, it's about them. It's all about what can I attract for myself, me, but they don't realize that as a whole, society, as the collective consciousness is imagining, is attracting this, the way the world is so messed up today. And so understanding, getting an understanding about these things and really getting your head around morality and being taught that, starting again, you know, with the kids, that's how, you know, we can create a better future, right? Imagine a better world. Pass it to you, Jerry.
Thanks, Jim. Some thought-provoking thoughts there. So yeah, I guess I'll just touch on the kids, right? I think that's a good subject to talk about. So yeah, the kids are the future. I mean, we are the ones that have this knowledge, so we should be educating them and lifting them up, propelling them to take on that adventure to basically teach objective morality and natural law. And I think it's just easier for them to notice all of the enormities going on in the world, and by the time they become an adult, they can fully do the work and not have all this mind control and stuff. So I mean, we still have a huge role is what I'm saying. So don't think that, oh yeah, like I'm not going to make an impact because one man can make an impact, woman. So yeah, I just think each one of us has to kind of break out of the chains and then just create a ripple effect, just keep going. It doesn't stop there. You I don't know, can educate your neighbor, you can educate people online. Like that's, a funnel four, you know what I mean? So that's a great place to start to educate yourself on all these issues, real important issues. And when you were talking, Jim, I was just thinking about people having their head up their ass because if all they think of it, they have that satanic mindset, they can't see anyone there, right? I mean, but it takes a deep level of understanding to know that we're all connected and that there's a lot of meaning in this place. So just imagine what we can accomplish if we put our heads together and actually work together and not against each other. So I'll pass it to you, Rick.
Thank you, Jerry. That's awesome, guys. And this is kind of the this is kind of the downside of going last, I guess, because all these great points get made, and I start going through my list I have, and I'm like, everything's getting touched on. So at least I know I'm in the right area, and I'm in the right frame of mind when I think about this. And I do think about this way more than people would realize about, because I hear so many people saying that they want a better world, and then I think about that so much, guys. I really do. Like, what does that even mean? And I try to break that down to its simplest. Like, what do people mean by a better world? And I think if we ask people, we get so many different answers what they think a better world is. But um, I think a better world can be built. I really do. And I find myself a lot of the times. I say this so often. I feel like I'm repeating myself, and I do apologize if it seems that way. But it's just how I truly feel. And I do think, and I sometimes I find myself always teetering. Like, can we pull ourselves out of this? Can we achieve this better world, or is it too far gone? Are we too far over the cliff, and humanity is just like you guys said, have their heads so far up their ass that we can't get out of it? And then at times I'm on the side like we can't, and then I'll see. And I was just saying this on my radio show. I said, then I'll see a really cool act of kindness or something, or I'll see somebody do something that's so amazing. And then it brings me back to like, we can change things. So I think that's this battle that I'm internally seeing and going through. But I do think we can achieve it. I just think that, and I know so many people say that they want a better world, but there's requirements if we want this better world. And I always want to ask people, like, are you willing to do the work to achieve this? Because there's work involved. If we want to change the world and get it to this world that we're talking about and we all want, requirements have to be met and work has to be done. And I always use my drumming for an example. I have to put the work in. I'm only getting better at what I'm doing on the drum kit because the work is going into it. So where you put your energy, your thoughts, your focus, you will achieve it. So, God, I sound like a self-help video. Anyways, sorry guys, but anyways, yes, the work needs to be done, and are you willing to do that work on yourself? And that's what I talk about so much, and Brandon hit on it. Foundation. I think that's so key, and I think it is lacking in most people. I don't think people are doing the work on themselves. They can, and I've heard this example. They can tell you everything that's going on and around the world and how they want to see things change, but they're not doing the work where it needs to start. A strong foundation with yourself, and that takes care. You have to care enough to even want to do the work and to want to change and want to strive to these things that we say that we want. So I talk about this so much about, and you call it shadow work, call it self-help, I don't know, give it any name that you want, but it boils down to doing the work on yourself. And it's so true. Somebody else said that everything begins in the mind, and that's so powerful. It's so true. Everything begins with a thought, and then you have to have the thought, and then you have to care enough to put it into action. And maybe that's somewhere that people are losing that connection. Like they're not putting it into action, but I think it can be achieved. I just think that each person does need to do that work on themselves. You have to build that foundation, and until we do, and until like we learn about objective morality and people know and truly understand what rights are, until that's understood, we're not going to get out of this. And I always tell people, if these conditions are met and people start understanding that and you have a strong foundation, all of these things that we're discussing that we want to get rid of, I truly believe will slowly cease to exist. They can't exist in that environment. If we're coming at it from truth and people have care and they know more objective morality and they know natural law, they know all these things we talk about, I think it will choke it out. If you guys know what I mean, these systems of enslavement can't exist in that environment. It's like a disease can't live in a healthy body kind of thing, for an analogy. So that's where I'm at. I think that people need to realize that we are all manifesting this reality together. And that's a big thing. We're all in this together. And until we realize that and start doing this work and building this foundation, nothing's going to change. We're not going to achieve what we say that we want because people are not willing to put the work in. And I'll end with that. Sorry. Okay.
It's nothing to be sorry for. That was some good words, Rick, and I appreciate what's been said thus far. I really like the way the theme came up quite a bit about imagination, and I think that's pretty crucial. The imagination thing gets really damaged for a lot of us at a really young age. Unluckily, in many cases, I think that happens in our education system. At least for me, when looking back, I've always kind of been an idealistic, kind of like hopeful kind of guy, like always looking for the um, silver lining in the clouds, always trying to be the optimist. I was goofy, silly little kid, right? The school system and adults in that environment really worked and did everything they could to dampen that spirit of mine, to make me feel like daydreaming was a bad thing, and daydreaming and getting distracted by what they, anything but what they wanted me to pay attention to was super frowned upon. So I think that's a big part of where some of the damage happens. But the hard part is, even though we've been damaged or traumatized, is pushing through that. And that's what Rick's bringing up, the self work. And I think people toss around that we need to do the work thing a lot. But I what I suspect is that to a large extent it falls upon ears that don't know what that means. What does that mean, do the work, you know? So I'm going to stroke my old guy beard until I touch the gray hair and an old guy story comes out. And I'm going to tell you about this guy I used to work with. His name was Angel. And Angel was no angel. He was a pain in the ass to work with. I remember I was putting these panels on the wall. They're called FRP panels, fire resistant panels. And you got to put glue on the wall first. And Angel's standing behind me the whole time like, you're not doing it right. You need to put more glue. You need to spread it out more. You're spreading it past the line. You need to stand more like this. You need to hold the trowel more like this. Like every little thing I did, Angel noticed and would make a comment on it. And the good thing about Angel was he actually did teach me that it's important to pay attention to details and be technical and pay attention to where that line is and spread the glue not too thick. Like he was right about but it also made me realize that if you stand back and watch somebody else do something, you can criticize them from here to infinity. You can criticize anyone to an unlimited degree if you allow yourself to get in that mode of thinking. There's no end to it. And that is the point of view and perspective that we are put in our modern society. The shitcoms, we talked about the shitcoms in an earlier episode. They're constantly like criticizing each other and making fun of each other. That gets your brain kind of in this mode of always external criticism. And that's most of people's day. If I walked in the bank just the other day and I hear the two tellers talking, they're either talking about what they watched on Netflix or criticizing somebody on Netflix that was criticizing somebody on Netflix. You know, it's like our whole basis of the authoritarian, what they're slapping down on you in school. Don't do this, don't do that, don't look at that, don't daydream in class. It's all teaching that external criticism, constantly being in this mode where you're looking around and criticizing things, which does have its place. Don't get me wrong. You know, we see things we want to fix externally and then we work on them, but all the work to actually do something about it begins with some sort of initiative. And that comes from the will, from the care inside of ourselves. And that's an inner work. And that's where all the resistance is. That's where all the conflicts are. It's all inside. All the actual work of going from nothing to getting something done or creating something in the world all happen inside of us. And that is the individual journey. And when we don't have the ability to get things done in the external world, it's usually because we're overly critical of ourselves. Constantly, people are criticizing themselves internally all day long, just like what they do on these TV shows, talking shit about themselves all day long, or going around the world and constantly criticizing everybody else and what everything else is going on, instead of finding the balance between the two, which is the opposite of the way the world is doing it right now. So I just thought, to start it off, like the self work is really recognizing where we place our criticisms. Are we criticizing ourselves in a positive way that helps us get better at doing the jobs and the things we're trying to complete to where we can take initiative? Or and our criticism of the external world, are they supplying us like initiative to go do things about it? And they're giving us fuel inside of our heart to say, I care about those things I see in the world that I'm critical of. Now I'm going to go on my internal battle and figure out what do I have to do inside of myself to find the energy to do something about it instead of just criticize it. That's the hard fucking part. That's the difficult part. And so that's what I would challenge people to do, is to say, how do you transcend being critical angel on your shoulder, actually kind of like letting it soak in what Angel's complaining about, and how do we do something about it and make the change? And that's translating through your own self and your own mental problems, which we all have, because most of us went to school to bring it back. So I'm gonna pass it on. I don't know, remember who we're on, but Popcorn, who's up?
Yeah, buddy. Because yeah, real talk. It's really unfortunate that a lot of people don't understand or recognize or haven't, stepped into embodied their real worth, right? And it ties into you what you mentioned, Rick, as well. Of you see these people and like they're so jaded on life and like and whatever the fuck, and but they see this one kind actor, they see an inspirational meme or some video where someone's doing a favor for something, just like wow, like as if that doesn't happen on a daily basis all the time. And but all of a sudden, like they say something like my faith for humanity has been restored, I have hope again, and this and that, when it's like each individual is supposed to embody being what is it's supposed to be human. Why is everyone looking out for that? You know what I mean? Like be that embodiment of inspiration that other people would see. You know what I mean? So you see this unfortunate kind of mentality and stuff. And yeah, of course, people can. We live in a fucked up matrix. Of course, yeah, I get that. But if folks are still going to be like dwelling on that and operating through that mentality, like not a whole lot of shit's going to change, and especially from them being the cause point to make a positive impact, just things to consider, right? As well as so folks in the anarchist community, right? Or rather folks that see this from the outside and don't fully understand what anarchy is. They can't get a grasp of an idea outside of the government state of things, or even the monarchy or whatever. Corey Andrew put out a great presentation in regards to the Lord of the Rings, and I forget if he mentioned this or not, but I had this on my mind even before he put that out, and it was just Synchrilicious a couple years ago, and he got all dressed up. It was cool, and he tied it all into natural law and all these things. And I was thinking more of just, all right, so what kind of image or scene from a movie or anything can people get a good idea of what anarchy could look like, or uh, abolitionist movements, or the voluntarist way of living? Well, look at the Shire, the hobbits, right? Did they have a rulership over them and this and that? No, it was just a bunch of families within a community. It was more tribal and stuff, and like we have ancestral roots of that. We can still tap into that and reignite, resurrect those proper quality values that our ancestors had. Remember that a little bit more. So yeah, had a funny joke on that, like to trigger whoever. Like it could be even like a plant-based society, like take it back to the Shire. They had some big ass carrots, shit, just fucking around. It doesn't matter. But yes, like it would be considered in a hermetically sealed society that there is no harm done to sentient life, because people have raised their frequencies to a level where they don't have to ingest so much fucking food stuffs to just maintain their daily life. It's funny because I just realized this, Chris, when you're talking, like, why am I so like airy fairy? I'm like, I got the giggles like hardcore tonight. And it could be due to the fact that I haven't even eaten a meal all day. Like I was like, wow. Actually, scratch that. I had one meal today. I've been up for a long time, and it's like 4 a.m. But it's just, I don't know. I got good quality food for thought that keeps me satiated or something. I don't know. So there's these things that we can tap into to raise our frequencies, right? So in regards to like affirmations and what this better realm would look like, in regards to living in accordance to universal law and all these things, and being way more in touch with nature and just the elements, and using them and being in harmony with them, not disrupting the electromagnetic integrity of these ecosystems and the microcosmic levels on levels. There's so many octaves of life around us, and we just kind of plow our way through to get the minerals and stuff because it's worth monetary fucking value, and that is such a menacing motivator that's plagued this planet for way too fucking long. So yeah, there would be a different way of exchanging goods and services and whatnot that isn't by monetary means. Yet I feel like we can still function to a decent level that's not necessarily parallel with what we have right now today. It doesn't mean like, oh, no one can buy a laptop anymore or whatever the fuck, because no one's going to make them anymore because like everyone's all anti-materialist or whatever the fuck. I'm not talking about some new age utopia bullshit, and there is no utopia because utopia means nowhere or something like that, right? So things to consider. But we have to avoid that dystopia, which is where the modernity of things is fucking leading us, right? So yeah, flipping the script on the scarcity to abundance, that's huge because we're stuck in the control realm of scarcity based mind control. So yeah, and just imagine if we had Tesla tech over a century ago, like the real shit. I'm not talking about Elon Musky rat shit crap, right? Nikola Tesla, y'all heard about him, maybe studied him a little bit. Might have seen that quote, the famous 369, and think of everything in terms of energy, frequency, sound, vibration. Yeah, this is fucking life, yo. Science of life, natural law, it's all tied in. So if everyone's really in tuned to that frequency and everyone raises the fuck up, yeah, we would be living so wonderfully. And that doesn't mean that conflict wouldn't arise or whatever the fuck, because we have these seeds growing up. They're still nescient. They're still getting the feels for what's right and wrong and testing their own strength and all these things, right? So, yeah. So that's where, these measures of accountability take place. And it always starts from within, right? And then the family units, and then from there on and so forth and such, right? But yeah, obviously we see all the limitations that we have and in the here and now, which is really unfortunate. And obviously media is one that I would see as so much better in this like parallel universe, if you will, of where there is no fucking bullshit. Movies would actually be good. There wouldn't be this over excessive gore and whatever the fuck, and people creatively staring into the abyss as if this is what I mean. Like it is creative, it is art, but enough with so much fucking zombie bullshit movies and whatever the fuck. Like how many movies are there about like these tall tales of things of these higher realms, like beyond just Lord of the Rings or whatever, right? These greater states of heroes' journeys, and even like resurrecting the mythos and all these things. There's so many different stories that could be told through allegory that can be friendly reminders for us and also encouragers for us to help us better ourselves and keep the proper conditions that are aligned to cosmic law alive and well and thriving. Alive and thrive were the Leslie Powers. But yeah, I'm gonna hand it off. So yeah, I got more on my list, so third round is good to go.
Yeah, shout out to LP, Big Leslie. Yeah, she's always holding it down. How much stuff, for her. Derek, I would have to disagree with you. I don't think the Shire would be representative of how I would feel. I would have used when Aragon was giving his Men of the West speech. How when they had unified to come together to go detour and fight evil. I just always felt that was more, like reminiscent of the better world I want to see, because it embraces the masculine and the feminine. And I always felt like the Shire was kind of a new age approach of them, like in a state of bliss to where they kind of ignored things, how they didn't really want, Frodo to go out and, like in evil. It's like, no, man, you're killing my, you're killing my buzz, you're killing my vibes, but, I just wanted to bring that up. And then, Chris had talked about, the whole, how the thing as far as just sitting back and watching and criticizing, and man, do I hear that all the time fucking like at work. Hell, I get criticized all the time being a umpire, and you just hear people want to critique, and I'm like, look, motherfucker, there's a reason why you're outside the fence watching me. like you see, I'm actually engaged, I'm actually involved, I'm actually out here creating. You're just out there, hell, watching me. But to get back hell on point with hell the imagination, there is one specific thing that actually kills, that murders, that destroys imagination, and that is fear. If you are in a state of fear, you cannot imagine, you cannot create anything outside of that state that you are in. And that is key, because that's why people can't imagine a better world and even get to that correct mentation, because they are in a fearful mindset, a stressful mindset, a stressful environment, a fearful, like environment. So when we look at, modern man, it doesn't really, matter where this, man is at, like on the, like on the planet. Most people's mindset is in a state of fear. Like we're just struggling to survive. We're struggling to put food on the table. We're struggling, managing hell our time, with kids, her loved ones. Hell, there's always this boogeyman, who's hiding underneath the bed, who's coming to get us. So there's fear all around us. People turn on the television, it's fear. People go on social media, it's fear. People go on garbage TikTok, it's just all fear. It's all ignorance. And people are taking that in at such alarming rates. What is that doing to your internal, cognitive abilities? So, hell, again, how can you imagine something in a state of fear? When you go into that state of fear, there are certain internal older animalistic processes that will kick in. And if you don't believe me, just try to remind yourself what it was like when you was in a state of fear. Even just you remembering that, the body will already start to go through those same processes. So if you're in that constant mindset 24/7 over and over and over and over, that repetition of fear, you like your imagination is going to be stunted. It's going to be murdered, given hell enough time. And then too, the second thing that kills the imagination is the idea of separateness. Because when you think about it, when you were imagining something, you were actually connecting. You were actually creating something. So to imagine something, you are connecting something because you are creating something. So then the idea of separateness is what destroys that, because there's nothing to imagine, there's nothing to connect. And these are ideas that people have. They think they're separate from other people. They think they're separate from, from other beings. They think they're separate from reality. They think they're separate from the truth. They think they're separate from nature, when they don't understand that they are a part of all of that. So you can't get to these, these next steps if you don't have those underlying principles, embedded. And this is why we are talking about, how mentation, how the mind, the activities within the mind, because that's where we are being controlled. That's where we are being stirred down, this diabolical path, by the controlling of thoughts, by interjecting, incorrect thoughts. And I mean incorrect as in like incorrect, thoughts, because those incorrect thoughts are going to lead to wrong forms of output in the form of behavior. So hold on, I'm gonna check my notes real quick. One thing that really helped me, spring out of all this, because like I was that person, I was a nihilist, back in the day. Like I didn't really care about anything outside of bud and girls. Those two things I thought about 24/7. We and ladies. But as my journey, progressed and I started to realize certain things and I wanted to better myself because I wanted to, create and imagine a better world. One of the things that truly helped me was reading. Reading is one of the best things to brighten up your mentation, to brighten up your imagination, to brighten up your creativity. And the reason for that is because it's like when you're reading, you're coming across so many different brand new words, that you might not understand. You are forced to go deeper to figure out what these words mean. And then too, as you are reading these words, you can create these scenarios, these chapters within your mind. So it actually puts you, like in the actual story to where you're actually more engaged and you're actually, have a kind of like mental, like experience, experience of what's going on. So you can put you can put yourself in the place of the character and whatever thing or event that you are reading to kind of envision that to to kind of see things from a different perspective. That was one of the like main importances of myths and storytelling, to get them to envision and create these concepts within their mind. And then of course things got written down on paper and in books, which was a totally a different thing. But reading was one of the things that helped me when it came to being able to imagine things and see things differently. Because I was still kind of more left brain, like more logical. But once I started reading, that just opened up a whole new chapter because I can actually create these these scenarios that I was reading, and not just looking up the definitions, and understanding how these words and phrases, it was encompassing, like the whole thing of what's being said to actually understand that chapter, within that book. So we have to get back to the fundamentals, and, reading is one of the main things that can actually help because it really does help you when it comes to being able to imagine things. Now that's why whenever I see someone read a book, I always acknowledge this person. I'm like, hey man, thank you, because someone who's reading, I have more respect for them because I've learned that people who read books are more intelligent than people who don't. And some people would disagree with me on that, but if you read books, like how it just opens the mind to new words and new concepts, new phrases, and new things that you may not have even been aware of before. So we have to get back to to these base core principles, and we should be encouraging more reading to the next generation. The youth, and get them away from these smart devices and get them actually to these real smart devices, which are textbooks, books. Things that are actually going to broaden and brighten up their imagination, things that are going to help them engage in more deeper concepts. I think we should get back to myth telling and like in storytelling. That's something that seems to have died down, like with the spread of the whole Western, society and the whole Western culture. But once that started to die down, you actually took away one of the main things which was used, and it was to get them to start to think and to create these forms of meditations within their mind. Because it's one thing to just read about it, but if you can actually envision it in your mind, that's a whole different concept, especially when you are young. And we know that kids have such a wonderful imagination, such a wonderful imagination, and it's infinite. That it's like Chris said, we are damaging them at such a young age that by the time they hit high school, that imagination is darn near gone. And that's a problem. That's a problem. So we have to get back to, like the old way of doing things. People say it's not necessarily the old way of doing things, but the correct way of doing things. So reading is one of the things that can help anyone. I understand how it can be hard starting off. I understand that, like it can be tiresome, but Like that's the hard work and requirements, in order for these conditions to be met. So if people want to, ask about solutions, like, what can I do? It's like help. Start reading, find some books, hell, that you truly enjoy, and just start reading them, man. So
That's awesome. That's really cool, Brandon. I agree so much with reading. I love reading books. I read constantly, and I'm not talking about audio books and books on the computer. That works for some people. I need a physical book. Like I just like the feel of a
yeah,
book and
yeah, you gotta
the
get hands
whole
on. Like, yeah,
yeah, hands
get
on
hands
and the
on.
smell and like yeah, I don't know. It's like a whole ritual thing, but I do love reading. I'm glad you brought that up because and I like that you brought up like storytelling and myth telling because I do think that that is really cool. And it and I talk about it a lot is that I love having friends over and we get around a fire and we just talk. And I think that's a skill that we're losing in a lot of cases, especially with social media, is in-person interaction. And I'm not just talking about going to the store or running into somebody and just interacting that way. I mean, like getting in a group and actually holding a conversation, exchanging ideas and, thoughts. I love that. I really enjoy that. That's probably one of the highlights of my whole summer is these group talks that I have and with people. And you can see them light right up when you do it. Like it's like they miss it. And you got to get rid of the devices. I don't allow phones. I mean, because nothing depresses me more than a group of people sitting together and they all got a cell phone in their hand and nobody's talking. It just drives me crazy. But anyways, I think those are great points. Yeah, definitely reading and interacting, getting that skill back. And I like that you touched on fear. I didn't even that's such a big thing too because we are in this constant state of fear. It's so true. Um and it's always constant, especially with social media. Like it's never ending. It's just one after the other. And I know it's by design, one after the other, keep in that fear state where there's, like Chris said, no imagination happening, no creativity is happening. And then people are in this like fight or flight mode. People are like barely making ends meet and all of these things. There's a lot going on. And I try to keep that in mind. This is complex. People are, it's not a simple solution in a lot of ways because it's a lot of individual people. People are so different, which makes it amazing in a lot of ways. I love that aspect, but God, those are good points. And I just really agree. I mean, this fear state has got to go. And I really think social media people got to really pull away from that a little bit and get out of that and start, I don't know, taking walks or something and just unplugging from this whole matrix that people are just engulfed in. And it's true. It's like you guys said, it's that fear state. It's killing creativity, imagination, and they do it at a young age. Absolutely. Like those are great points. So, yeah, I just want to comment on that. You guys are making great points. So awesome talk. I love it.
You guys left out one of the biggest ones. I can't believe no one had said it. Um, you can either, and you have a choice too. You could either make America great again, or you can build back better. That seems to be the most common road to choose when you want to think about making the world a better place. And now, luckily, they picked the right guy because he's going to make America healthy again too. So anyway, anyone who's seen our past work and our last video on voting knows that I'm being sarcastic. Um, but that is the most, that's the consciousness, that voting consciousness. That's how we're going to make the world a better place. That's that programming that no one seems to know they're under, and just thinking that, you know, the way it is, whatever. But I realized I was being negative too before about saying how the adults don't stand a chance. But yeah, you gotta get the children too. But um, the adults, like Rick had brought up, and you guys are also about that doing that inner work. That's something that I've been focusing on, and it never ends. Like for the rest of your life, you got to keep on doing it. And I do my best. I realize I keep growing. Well, I'm not the same person I used to be, and I'm getting to know my value more and realizing that, um, you know, I'm trying to be who I want to be instead of who society wants me to be. And anybody watching this, if you don't know like how to do that inner work, just start with that question. Are you being who you really want to be? You may even like your job or what you've chosen, but why did you choose it? Did you choose it because that was like your best option? And you think you're smart because you chose that wisely, but meanwhile, if you really use your intelligence, you can understand that you're under a form of slavery, and you get to realize these things like the more you read like and search this kind of information out. um One thing I've been working on is and I've been involved in the world of permaculture over the last decade, and trying to do those things, trying to do that outer work. And a lot of people will, even like myself in the beginning and only until recently, like realize that doing all that outer work really, it's good to imagine it and to understand and learn all the practices it takes to create the outside conditions, but um we're never going to create. It's if you do all that outside work and you think you're going to grow a paradise, it's never going to, it's not the solution. Like the solution is to do the inner work and fix the minds first, fix the consciousness in order for that outer work to truly work. And that's what I've been focusing on mostly, like, because in with permaculture there's so many things that are great. Like there's a famous quote from Bill Mollison, one of the founders, saying that the though the problems in the world are increasingly complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple. And that's what I'm getting at. If the solutions, if the problems are easy to solve, then why aren't we doing that? Like the whole point of permaculture is to be able to put the solutions into effect, but you can't. There's all these people that are making America great again with that make America great again consciousness and build back better consciousness that's preventing that from the solutions to go into effect. And it takes a lot to get that. And I was stuck in that for a long time, just thinking, you know, the outer work, the outer work, the outer work. And I did a lot, and I still am. And I always say I never would discourage anyone from doing it and getting their hands dirty and learning. And I'm doing it. And I love it. I love it. Like it's fun. Of course, do it and teach people to do it and tell them to do it too. But you need to understand that if you really want it to work, then the consciousness has to has to change. And again, we do stand a better chance with the children, but no, if you're listening to this, you're listening to us, and any of this resonates, like it's seek out how do I do that inner work. It's not easy, but just ask yourself like these questions. Do you know your value? Do you? And why don't you? We talked a lot about that self-worth and stuff. So um but yeah, so what else was I gonna say? Hmm, I forgot. But I said enough. Uh you're up there, Jerry.
Oh, that was great, Jim. Thank you for all of that. I think I'm gonna touch on the fear that Brandon was talking about because I think that's a powerful concept and idea. So, what I'm thinking is how fear is false evidence appearing real. So, although it may seem very real, it's still an illusion per se. Not saying like, oh yeah, never have fear, right? Because if there's a bear, if you're out in the woods, like it's a good thing to, hey, let's get out of here. And but you also have that space between stimulus and reaction where you can think. And in that space, you can discern the illusions with the truth. And where the truth is where your imagination goes. And you can see I'm going to talk for myself. I can see myself overcoming those fears, and it takes effort. And I think to Crip's point, when he first spoke about where's the disconnect, it's in the action, right? Like the freedom community, we are great thinkers. I think we can notice, hey, there's a problem with the whole government, and yeah, the whole MAGA stuff, Maha. Like it's not a totally bad idea, but like let's just do that without the government, right? It's like let's all be self-sufficient, responsible adults. Like let's live healthy, and like we can all prosper. But getting back to the action part, like yes, we have all these great ideas, but it takes that effort, and who's gonna be willing to do that, right? But there's also this thing, this idea that it sticks in the back of your mind, and it will always be there. Like you cannot unlearn this stuff. So I say just get better each and every day, even if it's 1%. I think that's what I'm advocating for, is take just one step in the right direction. And if we all do that, we can actually make huge strides. And you know, we are each in unique individuals. For example, Derek's in France. He's got his own life going on there. Brandon's in, somewhere in the US. Chris, you're in Cali. Rick is in Canada. Jim is in New York. I'm in Mexico. So we share the same principles, but we're very individual. We're very different in many ways, which is a good thing. And I don't want people to kind of think of this as, or us as a cult, because we're nothing like it. We're actually anti-cult. So I'm advocating for a world that breaks mind control, the illusions. So with that, I'll pass it to Chris.
Thank you, Jerry. Well said. Yeah, how do we galvanize people in that right direction? By being a good example, by being a shining light of the best we can be, right? And it's hard to be in that mode if we're just totally frustrated with everything all the time, and it's hard not to be. I get it. But I wanted to talk a little about wordplay. In the beginning, Derek, you were tossing around the I Mage Nation, and I was thinking about what does it take to make change? How do we bring about anything in this world? What's the magic that you go from nothing to something? What is that? Like I see it a lot in my line of work. I can remember starting with just dirt, and then like half a year later there's a building standing there that and I touched all the little parts and pieces that went through that driveway over that 6 months to a year, and see something there that wasn't there before. Well, how do we do that on an individual level to do this work, right? It's called initiation. I've always been like kind of in love with this word initiate, to take initiative is the way I like to say it, because it's a rare individual that I've met in my life is somebody who understands deeply what it means to take initiative. There's so many, because of what was done to us in school and the authoritarian religion that's pervasive, not only in government, not only in courts, the judicial system, the school system, but most other religions employ the authoritarian religion within their religions. so it's always based on looking up to someone else who's in charge. And people like to think about God even that way. You know, he's the big boss, right? Which is kind of not a good way to think about it, to become a magician in this realm. If we want to be co-creators, if we want to be part of a change working towards a more positive future, then our direction has to be to go into things. And that's a very personal process. When you look up the word initiation, it takes you to, well, of course, the participation in secret rites is, you know, what we think of being initiated into a school or something. But like more like the root of that is initiare, which is originate. Initiate is a beginning. It's to start something. And like initial, right? The beginning of a word is an initial. That's in it. And Brandon mentioned the words engage and involve. And I thought both of those kind of have the same concept. Get in it. You need to get in it. Like Nike, just do it. Right? It's putting yourself into something. Choosing. Once you choose to go into the path, you know, you're moving into it now. It's like going into a cave. You know, it's like you've chosen this adventure. You're going into it. And it's not an easy thing. It's the hardest part of every project. When you start, like someone wants to write a story and you're looking at the blank page, it's like, that's the hardest part right there, to get past that. When you want to dig a hole and you hit the ground the first few times, it's like, tink, tink. You're like, oh, this is going to be hard, right? Like, that's when you got to take initiative. That's when you got to get inside of your guts and be like, do I really want this? Do I really want this? Do I really want this? Yes. And then you start taking these consistent, persistent actions, right? So how do we do this as a people, as a race? You know, like we can't force the people around us to have this attitude of caring and being inspired to care, to take initiative, to go into it. But we can exemplify that energy. We can engage ourselves and push, right? And when other people see what we're doing, they're like, man, that guy's pushing hard on just caring, you know, and what's he getting out of it? He's not getting paid. You know, like, why do these guys do like a funnel conference? Why do they put hours and hours into creating a conference or a podcast that very few people listen to? Why would someone do that? You know, like, it is, we're starting from behind nothing. We're digging our way out of a shitty, very shitty position with the humanity right now. But there is inspiration. And one of the things I've always looked to is some of the amazing things on this planet. Every part of the world has these amazing, like, megalithic structures built in not only architecturally but symbolically and hermetically designed to show you something amazing. And how did these things get put together? It indicates a level of thought, technology, combination of teamwork, maybe, and some sort of integration of science and technology and spirit that we don't have. And actually, the ancient Vedic scriptures like have these stories of the Vimanas that they could control with their mind, like spaceships, like UFOs. Back, you know, I think there's been times in ancient history where people have achieved pretty amazing things, which indicates that there's a lot more that we could do. And I imagine that we could evolve in a lot of ways to where we don't have to do a lot of things. We might not even need language. But right now, we just have a very simple thing to evolve forward. And that's just not stealing from each other. And essentially, that's not making each other into our slaves, not forcing people to do things, allowing each other person to have the same freedom that we want for ourselves to, you know, seek an existence where we can survive and help others around us survive and think forward into future generations. So I just really encourage people to take the initiative and embody that do it kind of attitude and show other people how to do it, how to take initiative, how to make something where there was nothing before, something good, something worthwhile that doesn't involve stealing.
Do it.
So
At the
that's
Sith
pretty
Lord
much
said. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it, Anakin.
Yeah, can I add something real quick? I just want to rapid fire just the last of my notes in it.
Hit it.
Segues
Yep.
with what you're talking about. Initiate yourself into, like we all understand shit's fucked up, right? Can you not try to imagine like the diametric opposite of that? What this world would look like, without motherfucking mafioso motherfuckers, the pharmakia bullshit, occultocracy, oligarchy, corporatocracy, the fucking Gruberments, dogmatic bullshit religion, scientism, and all the financial fuckery, like even fucking insurance, what do we actually need this stuff and all this stuff? And like, if nothing happens to my car, can I get some of my money back? Because, all these things, what, stock market bullshit, fucking the whole monetary minutia, the economic insanity, the shitflation, inflation, all these things, and the whole military industrial complex as well. So there's all these things, and like, there are issues with these factory farms of death. I respect folks that can take care of animals and not have them suffer their whole fucking life just to feed people. There's better ways to fucking do it. But we're not gonna get to this. Everything's all fine and dandy, cotton candy, whatever the fuck, without keeping things balanced and in order, not like the new world odor. What the hell? What the smell? And there's like this, we're only human, right? But it's not to the tune of the whimsical, crappy song that was hella popular by Rag and Bone Man, whatever the hell. Like, I'm only human. Da, 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 da. Don't put the blame on me. Well, motherfucker, who's being held accountable then? Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, I never got that about that song. So we can initiate ourselves into, better dialect, better lyrics, better dialogue, better writing, because the bullshit in on Brokeback Mountain of Unhollywood is whack as fuck. They said Wokeback Mountain. Anyways, whatever. So let's take it and really embody that essence, the zero, the womb, the world, Mother Nature. Let's be on that level. Respect the feminine and the masculine. Keep it enlightened, and yes, many hands make light work. So the more people on this page, the better, right? So 100th monkey effect. It can only take sometimes, for certain things to manifest. It might just take one brilliant mind to really ignite it, initiate it, and all these things. So we're just trying to encourage folks out there listening to do just that, and also with the funnel conference, that's what that's really about as well. So I'll pass it back to Chris or anyone else. But thank you.
Hell, I'll take it real quick since we're ended up. Of course, we are talking about internal change. It's not going to happen on a external basis if it doesn't happen on the internal, plane first. The internal mentation. And one last thing that I want to say: if someone is truly creating and they are, acting with the imagination, they don't have time to criticize others. Hell, y'all know what I'm talking about. If you are, busy, creating, you got a podcast going on, how you're trying to manage a website, create presentations, you don't have time to criticize other people's work. You don't have time to, just follow the bullshit, because you are in that creative mindset and you're focused, and you're not going to let anything, pull you out of that. So, you can truly tell when someone is truly engaged, with that correct, imitation, because you don't have time to follow the stupid internet drama, whatever the fucking news hell is feeding you, hell, whatever's being posted on Facebook, because you are imagining a better world internally, and you're creating it internally, and you are pushing it out externally in the form of whatever craft you choose to do it in.
That's a really good point. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, great point.
Get in the flow. Jim, you got any more words you want to finish up with?
I'm good.
Jerry?
I am good too.
Cool. How about anybody else? Rick?
I would say this is a great talk, and I would tell people that you got to do the work. That's what I want to say to people, and pick up a book. It won't bite.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no one said it's going to be easy, that's for sure.
Yep.
But it's just a matter of time till the world gets it figured out. It's got to be what we're here to do. So why put it off for another lifetime? You got a good one right in front of
Right.
you, and you might not get another one for all we know. So make the most of it. Make your moments count. Do something worth doing. You want to lay on your deathbed and look back at what I call it in my presentation, a cow fart. Your whole life was just a cow fart. Or do you want to say, I really put some good effort into this lifetime and I left a legacy for our future generations and my grandchildren will be proud of what I did while I was here. It's up to you. All right, folks, we'll see you next time. It's the One Great Work Warriors signing out. Much love.